Kevin McCloskey and Ricky Portella back again. It's time for Warrior Football 2014. Ricky, welcome back. It's been a long summer.
Good to see you.
It's been 9 months since we last talked to you. The last time Ricky and I sat in these chairs was right before the playoff game back in November. So it's been about 9 months, and we're ready to get started again. We're going to talk to you about the seat last year. We're going to talk to you about the conference we're looking at for 2014, and then we're going to talk to you about the Warrior outlook for 2014. Just a little note, we intended to be out at the field tonight, but the way the weather's been, the scrimmage game got delayed, and the scrimmage is actually being played in Eastern Randolph tonight, so here we are in our den, and we're going to talk to you from here. So we'll try and get some interviews at some other time, but for now, you just got us. You'll have to suffer through it. Ricky, 2014, we sat here, and you told me at that time, the blind squirrel syndrome, you said we had to get past the first round of the playoffs to be a successful season, and we did.
Well, and so according to us and the fans, we had a great season. I know the coaches were disappointed that we didn't make it to the next round after they lost to Eastern Alamance. But you look back, and I've talked to the coaches about this. How many teams in this state would love to say we were 11-2 last year? We're disappointed. How many schools would love to be in that position?
Oh, everybody. I mean, 11-2 season is phenomenal. 10-1 in the regular season. We made it to the second round, and it's just the way the NCHSA does things. They dropped the pod system last year, but lo and behold, somehow we get matched up with a rematch with Eastern Alamance in the second round. And I want to tell you something. That was one of the best high school games I've ever seen. You missed the game, but this was a slugfest. This was I'm going to punch you, you punch me. And we beat them the first time around over in Mebane. They came in and beat us, but there was nothing to be ashamed of. We played our hearts out, and so did they.
Well, Coach Kirby and his staff are so much like Western Alamance. I mean, they preach the same thing to their kids, and it's a system, it's a family environment over there. We went to Eastern Alamance the first round with them, and I actually sent an email to Coach Kirby, and I thanked him for their atmosphere and how they just made me feel welcome. And that's how we like to be at Western Alamance, and I think Eastern and Western have a lot in common. When those two teams get together, it is just a knockdown, drag-out game every time. And the first game was that way. We were fortunate to come out with a win. Obviously, we weren't that fortunate in the second round of the playoffs, and we'll see them again this year.
We absolutely will see them at least once.
At least once.
At least once. Now, let's talk about last year. Every year, it's the nature of the beast. We lose people. People graduate, and we lost some great ones last year. I hate to mention names because you're fearful of slighting somebody that might slip your mind. But off the top of it, you got to say Justin Wilson, Brock Deathridge, Jamie Billings along the line, and Justin and Brock in particular were playing both ways. They're both receivers, and Brock at quarterback some, and then Jamie played offense and defensive line at times. So we lost some really good talent, but hopefully we got some guys that'll step up.
Well, not only did we lose talent with the ones that you just mentioned, but more important, in my opinion, is that we lost leaders. Justin was a 4-year letterman on varsity. Brock played 3 years back there, and he was the general. He played that free safety position. He would come up, he would stay back. He just saw the field so well, and then he was a leader on that team. So that, to me, more so than their talent, is going to be the hard thing to replace this year. So I'm sure Coach Snuffer is looking for that player to step up.
Absolutely. So before we talk about who's going to step up and who are the players to watch this year, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back to you, and we're going to talk about the conference and who we need to watch out for in the conference. All right, 2014 schedule is setting up nicely for the Warriors. We had a good mix of home and away games. We got our bye week right at midseason. As is always the case in Alamance County, we're going to play our county rivals first. They're not conference games, but they're extremely important. Warriors won the ACC, the Alamance County Championship last year. So we're going to start off with our traditional foes, Cummings, and we're going to Southern Alamance, Graham. We're going to go through the non-conference but county teams, and then we're going to get into the conference schedule. And that's what we want to focus on right now. We're going to start off with some teams, quite honestly, we don't know a whole lot about. And quite honestly, they're just they're a group of teams that always have that potential for breaking through, but very rarely crack that glass bubble. So let's talk about the Moorhead Panthers, Rockingham County Cougars, Northeast Guilford Rams, and McMichael Phoenix. Ricky, they're always there. We typically beat them. Rockingham County in particular, the last few years, not counting last year, before that, they showed a lot of promise, but last year they took a step back.
Well, Coach Stadler, in his fashion, he built that program. They struggled. He built the program up, and for a couple of years, they beat us up pretty bad.
Oh yeah.
And but then last year they sort of took a turn back to some of their old ways. And so it's going to be interesting to see. You know, in high school it depends so much on that senior class and how much they develop and how much they grow from one year to the next. So it's going to be interesting to see what these teams do. Morehead's just been a struggle. I don't know of a year that I've been involved with Western Alamance football that I've seen a good Morehead team, such as when Coach Hal Capps was an assistant coach.
Yeah, and then you got McMichael. They seem to struggle. Northeast Guilford, another one traditionally, in years past, we had some epic battles with Northeast Guilford. Last year, their first year back in the Mid-State 3A, we handled them pretty well at home. This year, we have to go back to Northeast. So we'll find out what happens. That's one of those games. Northeast Guilford and Rockingham County put a question mark on it. They're both on the road.
Right.
We don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Let's talk about some of the teams we're more familiar with. And you know what? You got it to start at the top, the purple team. We don't like to talk about them, but we have to. They're still there. And they're going to be different this year, though. They're going to be different. They graduated a lot of seniors. They graduated their quarterback. However, what's got me a little bit worried is C.J. Freeman, a rising junior running back.
Well, C.J. Freeman, he showed the quality running back that he is last year. If you remember, he had a couple of just runs where we would hit him at the line of scrimmage. And, I mean, he's a big kid. He's about 5'10", maybe 180, 185 sophomore. It's pretty good. If he puts on some more muscle this year, he's certainly going to be one of those players to watch to go into, the big-time college football. Another thing that Northern Guilford has coming back next year is our old foe, our old friend, the head football coach.
Johnny Roscoe.
He is back.
Coach Roscoe's back.
That'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yes, it will. And also so C.J. Freeman, looking at him on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, Mook Reynolds already committed to Virginia Tech. He's a big-time player, defensive back.
Well, just the fact that he's being recruited by Virginia Tech, who's one of the top programs in the ACC and sometimes in the country, says a lot for him and how athletic he is. Northern Guilford has just been blessed so many years with great talents, and he is no exception to that.
Yeah, I mean, you look back at McKean and Allen and T.J. Logan, and they got C.J. Freeman coming up. I mean, I don't know where they get him from, but they did. Now, one thing we did, Kay and I went out to the 7-on-7s out at Elon, which 7-on-7s, as you know, is just skilled players and it's all passing. Western more than held their own against Northern Guilford's skill players. Mook was not there that day, and C.J. Freeman, as a running back, really didn't come into play. But Western looked really good. Northern Guilford, in my opinion, has a big question mark at quarterback. They lose Austin Coltrane. Don't know a whole lot. They got what I saw at the 7-on-7s. They're kind of platooning right now, trying to figure out between two guys. Who knows? Maybe that's an area that could hold them back. But I don't want to say that because I don't know yet.
Well, in high school football, the quarterback is so important. Not only the quarterback is your best athlete, he's the leader of the team. He sets the tone for anybody. And we've been very fortunate at Western Alamance going back, Lord knows how many years. So it'll be interesting to see what they develop at quarterback in Northern Guilford.
Yeah. Let's talk about quarterback. Let's move over to Mebane. Let's talk about Eastern Alamance, another team at the top of the conference. So when you look at the conference, you're really talking about Northern Guilford, Eastern Alamance, Western Alamance. Put them in a hat, shake them up, and just see what's going to happen. Eastern Alamance, their quarterback, they lose Joey Lanier, their quote-unquote passing quarterback from last year. But they returned their running quarterback, and I believe his name was John Lamont. He's a heck of a player.
Well, I thought when we played Eastern Alamance there, the first game we played them last year, I thought he was the one that sort of turned the momentum for them, and sort of had us off balance. But then I felt like Eastern got a little bit too predictable with their play calling, and our defense was able to make adjustments, and obviously we came out with the win. But he's a great talent, big boy. If he ever gets around the outside, he's really tough to stop. So it'll be interesting to see how he develops.
Yeah. Now another weapon they have, I believe, is Malcolm Summers, the running back. The playoff game, when we played in the regular season, he had a good game. When we played him in the playoffs, he had a spectacular game. And quite honestly, he just wore us down. He went close to 200 yards from what I recall. We're going to have to find a way to stop Malcolm Summers.
Well, Coach Kirby always is able to come up with great game plans. And he probably looked at the film and I noticed that he probably didn't use Summers enough in the first game, so they obviously ran him more in the second game, and had a better result.
Yeah, so that Eastern Alamance, we know they're going to be tough. We get them at home this year, and what happens is we have Northern Guilford and Eastern Alamance. We're playing at Northern Guilford. We get a bye week, then we get to prepare for Eastern Alamance at home. That's going to be a critical stretch, critical 3 weeks, including the bye week. Let's talk about Crosstown. We've beaten them like 10 years in a row, I think. The Williams Bulldogs. They've got some talent. They've got some talent. We saw them out. Kay and I went out to the 7-on-7s. They looked really good. They're skill players. So that's one thing, but again, it's hard to tell. But what I do know is they've got some linemen that are outstanding. They've already got two college players there. Harrison G, as a rising junior, already committed to NC State, and Will Engel already committed to Richmond. I mean, they've got some beef up front.
Williams always seems to have talent. I think their struggles in the last several seasons has been just to put it all together. We've had some real close games with Williams. I mean, if you remember back a couple years ago, they had us beat, and we scored the last minute or whatever to go up. So it'll be interesting to see if that team can just put it all together and have a good season.
Yeah, and one thing is we actually played them 2 years in a row at Williams because of the schedule and the change with the conference. This year we're back at home with them, so I'm thinking we'll do all right. But they might try and pound us. We'll find out.
Well, certainly you can't put an automatic W
No.
there. I mean, it's going to be a game.
Yeah.
So it's just another game we're going to have to be prepared for.
Right. Now another game that's a little bit scary to me. It always is, and I always say this, and we always tend to win. But Eastern Guilford scares me. Eastern Guilford has a lot of talent, and they have trouble putting it all together.
Well, the way we talk about Eastern Guilford every year is they have a bunch of good-looking athletes. And you have it written down here, Moorhead, who's committed to NC State. And he certainly is one of those good-looking athletes. And every year they have him, and every year they start out hot. But for some reason, they just sort of fall off towards the end of the season. And that's when we're fortunate enough to get them. And we've been successful with it.
Yeah, but the good news there is last year when we played Moorhead, he got hurt in the first quarter. That's not good news, but he got hurt in the first quarter, so we don't know what's there. The good news is this year we play them at home, so again, the home crowd, we know what the Warrior fans can do, and we're looking forward to it. All right, so that's a talk about the conference. Now let's talk about the Warriors and how 2014 is shaping up for WA.